Hello, everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you to my new series, Global Evolution of Law Practice Management, where I will be engaging in meaningful conversations with some of the most respected managing partners and law firm leaders from around the world. Together, we will explore how law firms are evolving, adapting, and leading in the global legal landscape. Each conversation will dive into critical themes shaping the future of legal practice. Before we begin, let me introduce myself. I am Bithika Anand, founder of two unique and niche companies, Legally Consulting and Human Elevation. I'm also the India principal of Edge International. I laid the foundation of the concept of law firm management in India, guiding law firms on leadership, culture, innovation, governance, and succession. I have also played a significant role in facilitating domestic mergers and synergies between India law firms, as well as advising on high-end talent acquisition. I have assisted over 500 organizations in their growth journey and helped them understand and embrace concepts like change management, professionalization of legal practice, strategic planning, team building, and institutionalization. This series is born from a passion to share those insights and bring together voices that inspire and challenge conventional thinking. And speaking of such voices, it is my absolute honor to introduce our very first guest, Mr. Gerry Riskin. He is an international recognized lawyer, author, and management consultant. He is the founder of Edge International, a pioneer global consultancy that has been working with law firms over 40 years. Gerry began his legal career in 1973 and quickly rose to become the managing partner of his firm in both Canada and Hong Kong. His unique background in both commerce and law has enabled him to bring a strategic, business-oriented approach to law firm leadership long before it became a trend. He is also the author of Successful Lawyer and other influential works, co-creator of programs like Practice Coach and Rainmaking, and has advised leading law firms across the globe, including in North America, Europe, Asia, Australia, and India. So, hello, Gerry. How are you today? Nice seeing you after a long time. And which part of the world you are in?
Well, Bithika, what a pleasure it is to be with you for this conversation. At the moment, I'm visiting Canada, away from my home in Anguilla, British West Indies. But wherever I am in the world, we are still together.
Yes, absolutely. So today we have a very interesting topic that we are going to be having a conversation about, which is culture versus billing. So I want to know from you, in the other parts of the world, how do people really give that much importance to culture vis-a-vis the financial performance of their partners? And how are these culture assessments done, if they do give importance? And is it the size and the evolution of firms really matter, where they bring in the importance of the culture?
Well, I think there's a lot of research that indicates that a healthy culture is a profitable culture. And without quoting the particular studies, I think the better leaders understand that. Many firms believe that culture is important, but respectfully, many firms have no idea what culture really means. They use it very anecdotally. Do we get along with each other? Are we nice to each other? And that's our culture. Even pre-merger, when they merge with another firm, they say, well, they like their people, we like our people, so I guess our cultures are the same. They're very simplistic. But when we analyze a culture, we look at four different specific things. One is, what is the governance of the firm? And is it respected by those who are in the firm? Secondly, what are the values that are held in the firm? Thirdly, what is the collegiality within the firm? That really goes to how do people relate to one another? Do they trust each other? Do they respect each other? And so on. And finally, and very important, is there a strategic focus to the firm? And what this really means is, anecdotally, is do we believe that the firm knows where it's going and is clear about where it's going? And interestingly enough, it doesn't matter as much exactly where it's going as whether the people within the firm believe the leadership does have a direction, they are clear on it, and we are moving that way. So those are the four elements that I see.
Yeah. So, Gerry, what you have said about other parts of the world, that means India is also very much there. So, if, like you said, other firms don't know much about culture and, about how to assess it. Similarly, in India also. But I still feel that any organization does have a culture, whatever size, whatever evolution, whatever, and it really flows from the founders downwards or from the top leaders downwards. The culture always flows like that. And I have seen lately in India that definitely, like you said, the culture has to be such we cannot ignore the financial performance. It is very much integrated with that. And I think in India, of course, earlier, I would say, it was, though culture remained, the culture could be how, how are the ethics, morals, how, like you said, how do you treat your people, how do you handle grievances. So there is a culture, your humility, how humble the leaders are, and all that. These are all intangible, softer aspects of a culture. And of course, we have to look at the financial performance also. So in India, lately, what I have seen is that when they are recruiting their, especially their, senior partners or people at partner level, they are definitely looking at people who are obviously, have a fantastic financial performance, but they have to be aligned with the culture of the firm. And this I'm seeing lately, in quite a few firms, they are rejecting, the new hires that, okay, he's good, but somewhere, he's not aligned with the culture of the firm. So slowly it is picking up. But like you said, so this is all, I would say, but still, I would like to know if they have if there is any such ways to assess culture, because we are now starting this in India, that there is a way to assess the culture, and how do you say it's a good culture and not so good culture? So any thoughts on that?
Well, two reactions to that, and I'll come to your specific question. First of all, in terms of people who are not aligned with values and so on, there's a phrase that I love, and that is, it is what you tolerate that really speaks to what you are.
Right.
So if you will tolerate a high billing lawyer whose behavior is atrocious, then you don't have values. You say you do, but if you tolerate that, then you don't. Now, in terms of how do we assess culture, we examine every individual in the firm, not just partners, not just lawyers, every human being in the firm. And secondly, we look for traits that deal with those four areas that I mentioned. Mm-hmm. What are their values? Are they collegial? Do they respect the governance of the firm? Do they believe of the firm that it has a strategic direction? The things that I look for that light me up, that give me joy, are things like, do they trust each other? Because when I see a firm that we do an assessment for, and I see a high level of trust, then I'm very optimistic.
Right.
One of the best authors in history who wrote about the 5 dysfunctions of an organization said something quite profound. He said, if I don't trust you, I can't argue with you.
Right.
And as we know, really good management argues robustly on the way to making decisions. And if we have to trust each other to argue, or else people remain silent and passive aggressive, and we don't get anywhere. So
absolutely,
the punchline for me is that I think a healthy culture is one where people trust each other, where people are aligned, and we'll even incorporate back to that tolerance question. A healthy culture is one that does not tolerate behavior inconsistent with its culture.
Yeah, absolutely right. So, like you have said, that you have to trust each other. So, somewhere everybody in the firm has to believe in what are the policies. Do you think somewhere it is also related to the vision? So, the vision is created like that, and everybody kinds of, maybe I'm getting a little bit out of the place, the culture and the vision. But when you make the vision, also there's a part of your culture that goes into the vision also. And now, and so so what you are saying is that the stakeholder, everybody has to believe in their leadership, right? They have to trust their leadership. So then only there can be any healthy culture. So do you think there should be some way of communicating this, or how does it happen, in the firms where you have, worked to, kind of assess their culture?
Bithika, I think you put your finger on the most powerful word required. It's communication, because many leaders simply believe, oh, everyone in the firm knows where we're going. Everybody in the firm knows what our vision is. Everybody must know. No, everybody doesn't know. It has to be communicated, sometimes directly from senior leadership throughout the firm, sometimes cascading down through area leaders, group leaders, client team leaders, and so on. But the fact of the matter is that two things come together. If I have a vision and I communicate it, then people in the firm will believe of leadership. I'm comforted because leadership does have a vision. And the second thing, just to weave it back in, is strategic focus. If my firm has a vision and they've communicated it, then I believe of them, they know where they are going. And this gives great comfort to people within the firm and motivates them.
And do you think obviously it flows from the leadership team downwards, the culture flows that way. And which are the countries where you have actually, the law firms where you have done culture assessments, or you have spoken more to the leadership team about culture? Is there any countries where you have spoken more about it? Or the law firms, or the kind of law firms, I would say also, not only the jurisdiction.
The United States, of course, has so many firms, so many lawyers. In fact, one of my fondest memories is a firm, I won't name them for their privacy, but they're one of the leading firms in the world in their area. They're based in Washington, D.C. I'll say no more. I'd worked with them for 5 years on assessing their culture. And what they did was, when they realized that their culture was strong, they wanted to double down on it. We must communicate and communicate and communicate about our culture, and then teach our people how to give life to our culture. So they really did a magnificent job. And they actually won an award for having one of the strongest cultures of any law firm in the world. So we've done it mostly in the US, many in Europe, some in Latin America, others around the world. But because of the huge, and by the way, as a Canadian, having come from Canada, I don't want to disrespect my country, but Canada is so tiny compared to the US. It only has 10% of the American population. And in fact, there are more lawyers in the city of London than there are.
Wow.
So, but in any event, it's been like that.
I just wanted to say that maybe in countries like India and the eastern side, do you think it's time that they also now look at the culture assessments and culture, which can help them even to grow the firm, to even increase the financial performance? I think if the culture is well defined, well understood by everybody, I think it will help in the overall growth also of the firm. Because if they're confused people, they really don't know. They see culture is so and so, the behavior is something else. So it is not again aligned anywhere, and then because of this confusion, then the growth also gets affected, and I'm sure you must have had those experiences while understanding or working with firms, on their culture.
Yes, I would give the analogy of medicine. Do we all know how we're doing medically? Oh, we think we do. How are you feeling? I'm feeling not too badly. I think I'm okay. But what do we do? If we're intelligent, once in a while we go to the doctor, and the doctor takes some tests, and the doctor gives us the results of the tests. And sometimes the results are just fine and they're consistent with our informal assessment of our own health. Sometimes there's a little warning. This reading is a little too high, or that reading is a little too low. Maybe you should focus on that. I think culture is the same. What I notice is when we do a cultural assessment for a law firm, and we're presenting to them, we're showing them, this is what you are.
Right.
It's like a doctor giving a medical report.
Right.
And they love it. They love it because they're learning about themselves in a more objective way. And finally, the real focus is where are we a little weak? Where could we be stronger? Where could we be more consistent? Because firms love learning that. And they're very smart. And typically good leaders in a good firm, regardless of size, once they know, so we seem to be, let me give you one quick example. In one firm we were assessing, we looked at the demographics, age, office, gender. And I know in some parts of the world, you can't say the word gender out loud without being arrested. But in any event, we looked at gender. And we came back to the firm and said, we'll only tell you what is statistically significant. In other words, we're not anecdotal here. We're scientists when we do an assessment. And I came to the firm and I said, I have to tell you that your female partners do not believe of you that you enforce your culture, but the male partners do. And so that started a secret mission. Mm-hmm. Where the firm did not know who I was talking to, which women, which men, and all they did was they told their people, if Gerry calls you, please, it's okay. You may speak candidly with him and he won't tell us what you tell. It'll be confidential. Anyway, we went through an assessment and then we're able to give them guidance as to how they could be more sensitive to and more respectful of people regardless of gender within their firm. And to their credit, they did a magnificent job.
I agree with you totally. It kinds of this whole culture assessment exercise also makes you introspect on the intangible areas, I think, which also are very, very important to achieve the tangible, which is the financial performance. So anyway, to just sum it up, or to just ask you that, if there is a person who's, doing very well financially, he's the top person who is bringing you, the revenue you can't think of, and then you feel not really aligned to the culture of the firm. How would you advise the firm to tackle that issue?
Well, first of all, it's ironic because lawyers, participate in litigation, which is very challenging, very difficult. I tease that they face fire-breathing dragons as litigators, but they're afraid to face each other. They're cowards. We are cowards in our own law firms. And so the answer is we must confront people of this nature. And that doesn't mean we give them orders and we command them, you must this, you must. No, it's to speak with them and explain to them there's some behavior that you are exhibiting that is, having an impact. Let me tell you a little bit about what that is. The junior lawyers are afraid of you. They cry after they talk to you.
Right.
As a support staff quits, we have a turnover in support staff in your department because you're mean to. And we have to start with what's going on. And sometimes that person will reveal, well, so much is demanded of me, so much is expected of me, and I'm so impatient with people who aren't perfect. So sometimes we can help them learn, help them moderate their behavior. There are even cases, and I don't know culturally in India how this would go over, but here goes. There are cases where we encourage them to secretly or privately obtain a therapist, get a psychologist,
Right.
or a doctor, talk to them about this behavior you have of being mean to younger lawyers. I mean, and we give them a time period. And I believe that leaders should confront the behavior, share the behavior, allow the person exhibiting the behavior to participate in looking for a solution, and but to have a timeline. You know,
Yeah.
what are we now? Is this? I'm allowed to say when we're recording this? Is it June?
Yeah.
So let's say we're June 2025. Maybe if we were talking to such a partner, we'd say, you know, you certainly deserve an opportunity to revisit this behavior. We have to find a solution by the end of the calendar year. If we don't have a solution, then we have to look for alternatives.
Right.
And maybe you'd be happier in a different kind of environment. I don't know, but we'd love you and we'd love you to stay and we appreciate you. So let's see if we can work this out. But again, I want to emphasize time frame, because what happens in many law firms where we do have the courage to confront a problem, we go year after
Yeah, we go
year
round
after
and round.
year.
Yeah, we go around it.
Yeah, and we rationalize. Oh, you know, she's trying, he's trying, not good enough. I'm sorry. We will stop this behavior, which is damaging to our culture, by this time frame, or we will invite that person to please find another place to practice law.
So I would say that after this conversation with Gerry, I think India should also look at, the Indian firms should also look at their culture assessments. And I think whatever experience I've had working with law firms in India, I think time has come when they should understand and look at the culture and go through the processes which Gerry has told us today. Thank you, Gerry, so much for being with us.
It's an honor. Thank you.